Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Excited to be learning all this in-depth knowledge. We've been with Intuiflow since 2020, but this first time, I actually signed up 1 year, and I think I listened to a few.
When it was all
Yeah,
remote.
yeah, it was all remote, but it's a pleasure. I also brought Chewy Vu, who's my one of our planners, and so we're trying to get all the information that we can to make sure that we can be better at what we do. So I've worked with Clearbags as the inventory and logistics manager for about 12 years, and I'm going to go over a little bit about the company, similar to what Delta did there as well. And I manage the purchasing department planners, and we order the stock and custom items, and I actually dabble in a little bit of quality control and logistics as well. But that's what a small business does, right? So, and the goal today is to give you guys some good information and the experiences that we've had working with Intuiflow and the refinements that we had over these last few years. So here, maybe it's not. One more? No, back. Okay, here we go. Here we go. No? That one?
Let's do.
There we go. The right direction. All right, well, here's the agenda. I'm going to do a Clearbags introduction and just some highlights of the company. We're going to go back Clearbags purchasing and demand planning history, and then when we got into NetSuite, started NetSuite as our ERP, and then added Intuiflow in the implementation there. And then we'll just kind of go over the case study, the basics, the things that we do on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis using Intuiflow in NetSuite. And then we'll go into deep some of the, our journey to Goldilocks demand planning. It's not just in time, it's just right? That's what we're trying to get to, because with the DDMRP there. So let me give you a little bit about Clearbags. So it's a family business. It's been 31 years now. You can read there. It's founded in 1992 by Benny Wilkins as a small poster business. So, and it was called Impact Images. And they sold posters that were, flat, not rolled up. They sold them flat. They had a cardboard backing and then a protective crystal clear bag on the outside, like this. Not poster size, but this is how it all began. Putting in something as simple as that. So the market was wide open at the time. Not very many people in the United States was, selling these, had these. And these are actually made, just so you know, from BOPP. It's a recyclable plastic. I think it's number 5 on the recycle number, if you want to know. But that's where it all started, and it got way more complicated since. So Impact Images adapted and improvised its primary business to become Clearbags. It's continued to grow, evolve, and expand. New industries, product lines, challenges, opportunities. There's over 5,000 products, none of which are posters, as that was sold off a long time ago. Oh, let me make sure I hit the right button here again. So here's some highlights of the company, some milestones. So in 91, 92, as mentioned, that's when it started. The need for the crystal clear packaging was recognized and acted on. 93, pretty quick there, it was about 16% of the poster sales. 95, it started going to trade show for stationery. I think the Javits Center in New York has a national stationery show. That was the first show that we went to. And in fact, we have a show right now, as it says, 1997, the revenue and packaging revenue matched the poster revenue. 2005, we expanded into the food packaging. And this week, a couple of our Clearbags employees are at the Chicago snack, what's it called? Chicago Sweets and Snacks. And I saw somebody was at Wrigley Field. I didn't realize that the Atlanta Braves are so far away from.
Sore subject.
What's that?
Sore subject.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a little ways away than Atlanta. I don't know. Anyways, in 2010, we rebranded and established the new Clearbags website and Clearbags name. That year, we had 120,000 orders. And I'm just going to move on here. A few more highlights. These are some pertinent to what we're doing here today. In 2018, we changed ERP to the ERP system NetSuite from a Fox Pro legacy system that had been there since the beginning, and then in the 90s. And then a couple of years later, we got into this Replenishment Plus thing here in Intuiflow with demand-driven technologies. Kind of angled there, you can see a little bit about how many, the company. We have 2 distribution warehouses, West Coast in Las Vegas, East Coast in Summer, Tennessee. And then we have 2 people and process locations. The headquarters is in Collierville, Tennessee, and then Chewy and myself and about 20 other in California in El Dorado Hills outside of Sacramento. So about 125 total employees make up Clearbags. All right, so let's get into the history of our purchasing and demand planning systems. Fox Pro was the relational database management system that we used until 2018. And it was me and Chewy both had a chance to use that. It was I used to call it the Winchester Mystery House because it just had all these strange, California thing out of San Jose. There's a house, there's all these crazy doors that open into all these different areas, but that's how this system was set up. It worked really well, had a lot of databases and files, but it was chaotic. And then we had I call it a DIY, do-it-yourself forecasting and ordering sheet that we just exported data sets into Excel, just as everybody starts there apparently. Both of these were created by the President Dave Paval. He was he's the president of the company still and been there 30 plus years. And he has that background where he can code as well as market and sales, so he could get into all these different things. So he did a lot of the ordering until I came on in 2011, and that's how we did it with all those nice bright colors. All these actually when I started, it was mostly no colors, but I needed the colors to kind of figure it out a little bit. So let me just go over the strengths and weaknesses of that demand planning spreadsheet. It was do-it-yourself. He did have some, I'll say demand planning, I'll say MRP with a little bit of demand sprinkled in there. So he did have that because we use a lot of the consumption based as far as how we plan. So I'm not going to go over all the formulas. There was some exciting stuff in there. But we come from that background, and it was mentioned earlier today about trusting the system. So as he, relies on me to do it, I've got to somehow communicate how to trust the system or these different things. So in any event, the strengths were that you could do whatever you wanted. You could make these adjustments. It was do-it-yourself, completely customizable. And it did have some of those components that I mentioned of short and long-term momentum blend to see how to kind of blend those together and see how the ratios are working together to see like, hey, these last 2 months, you're way above what you did the last year, and so on and so forth. The weaknesses were it was very complex. Nobody else knew it. It was just me and him. I heard from other meetings earlier today that this person left, that person left. One of the things that is really good about Intuiflow is that it is teachable and you can get up and running I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment here. It wasn't embedded in the ERP. We didn't have alerts, so you'd get surprised when you did some ordering, and that was always a problem. Okay. So with all those negatives, we decided it was time to change, and the growth of the company. It was starting to really grow. When I came on, not because of me, it just so happened to be. It was kind of like, let's say, puberty for the company. It was like the kid who had the pants, the hole in the shoes, the pants were too short, all these things. In the last, even since then, it's been a long process. This last 5 years, there's been a lot of changes. I think it would have been smoother except for the pandemic, but it's been fun. It's been fun. And we wanted one system to rule them all. So that's where we went with NetSuite. And then we're looking for integration, or some sort of seamless integration with the DDMRP as well. Let me see here. During those 2 years, though, so we had NetSuite, we didn't come on. So from 2018 to 2020, a few things that we added to help the system was ranking our items. So we still use this. We created some custom fields in NetSuite, and it works really well. Basically it's A through D, pretty simple, and top items, and then N would be new. So that might be the forecasting items. You don't know what you're going to do. You have a thought process. You're going to order an initial amount. So we have these ways to check really quick, and we use them in the accept recommended orders customization. I don't know that I have a slide of that, but we'll have these extra fields that we like to do. We come from that Winchester mystery house. We have these extra little rooms and offshoots, so we can see really quick, oh, if that's a yellow and it's a D item, let me take a closer look. Did we just have one big buyer? And let's maybe talk to the sales rep and see if we need to order that, 20,000 of that, or if that was just a one-time, they didn't have something else. Or if it's an A or a top item, you can be a little loosey-goosey. It tells you to order 100,000. This thing's rocking and rolling all the time. Get that sucker on order and move ahead. So that's one thing that from that 2-year time period that we still use, and it feels like it's a great tool for us, or it helps. And some of the other stuff is, replace. We have safety stock, reorder points, preferred stock levels that we rebalance quarterly, as you mentioned, Victor, that we try to not be static with that. But it was tedious. It was a pain to do all that. So just check here. All right. So in December of 2019, we were fed up with doing it the old-fashioned way, and we had a good option as we did a lot of stress tests and testing with demand-driven technologies, and we basically pulled the trigger. And then we started a go live in January 2020. Up on the screen there, just 2 little screen grabs. The top one just shows the sandbox, which if you have NetSuite, you might be familiar with that, but that's something you can do to mess up and not wreck everything. And that's what we use to test out and see how this would help and work well for us. And then the one on the right there is just my dashboard of Intuiflow, which I'll go into here in a moment. So this next section, I'm just going to go over how we use Intuiflow on a daily, weekly, monthly, and longer term basis. Again, this is my dashboard for Intuiflow, and I'll just point out a few components to it. If I go back again, there we go. upper left is the reminders. They look a little high. You see that crucial priorities, that's 502. Well, the company's given back a distribution back to our team, and we've been a little slow on it. So most of those are not order needs, but they're distribution needs. So we have 2 locations, and oftentimes, it might be low in one location, but there's an extra amount in the other, the West Coast location, and we just need to get it transferred over in time. So even though it's a buy item in both locations, we just need to transfer it over there. The other thing that I really wanted to point it out was the 2 customized searches that you see, the one that says critical high priorities by orders, pretty wordy there, but this is where we're taking the R Plus or the Intuiflow records and then combining some of our records in there to take a look at what needs to be looked at by planner. So you can take this data points and then really customize it into however your business is running. Here. So on a daily basis, I'm just gonna highlight a couple of these. Customized dashboard reminders, I just went through that with you. The second one is the Intuiflow alerts. This is a huge component of what we do on a daily basis. Make sure what is going on, what are the problems. Let's handle those, the urgent problems, the triage it, right? And so that is another thing you'll notice. It says Intuiflow alerts and then version May 2023. Again, we like customizing it. We might have 1 or 2 little tweaks that help us really work for what we're looking for there. And urgent orders, excuse me, is the one in orange. That's that one specific search that we can prioritize. Again, you can do it from the workbench, but you can do it a few different ways. And so sometimes we can just tailor it down here with this specific search. And then just individual file analysis. You mentioned that this is just one-off things that we might be needing to do, planned adjustment factors, changing buffers, just, whatever arises. In fact, I just got an email or a text. Hey, this new item, how many stockings, are we ordering? Shaped like a stocking for Christmas. We need a bunch on order. So I might do a planned adjustment factor with that to show that, why am I doing that? Why am I going into blue? Well, there's a planned adjustment factor. I can show why I'm ordering another 40,000 or Chewy is next week of this item. That doesn't, show up in our normal, needs at this point. All right, weekly. So transfers, I mentioned this is a thorn in my side right now. We're getting back to a good service level with that. But Chewy actually helps and does these with our warehouse teams. Again, we can only do so much, but the distribution between branches is a big part of what we do, at least weekly. Sometimes it'll be more urgent than that, but just as a weekly standard. New items, once you create these new items, we do about 300 new items a year, and you got to create R Plus records for them, right? And so we do a CSV imports. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that or how that works, but you have, you set up your systems to batch them in and create your R Plus records. You can do it singly, but if typically we kind of batch them in through NetSuite. Going back to the alerts, sometimes the less urgent ones we can spend more time, and that's something that we'll do each and every week, working with the data to make sure we avoid stockouts and all those other things that keep the sales team happy. See here, KPI trend analysis. I didn't put any pictures in there because it's not through Intuiflow, but we use these records for a lot of different ways to check trends, check how things are working. Are we heading in the right direction or the wrong direction? In different batches. And then of course, the batch purchase orders we do weekly by vendor. by planner and by location. So we kind of do those. That's our typical workflow there. We don't usually do where you showed the single item, create a purchase order. I don't know if everybody does it the same way as us, or is there a consensus? Do you know, Victor, or if everybody would say, do you guys create your purchase orders singly by item, or do you do it on the accept recommended orders in a batch?
Well, that was part of what I'm hoping to learn while I'm here.
Yeah.
Is how to do it in batch. Because today we're generating those purchase orders
Singly. Okay, cool.
We see I've seen a pretty good mix, which is, I'm surprised. I really like the AR accept recommended order page. Kind of try to build a lot of functionality into that.
Right.
But some people still just like to go, part by part and really accept them single.
Yeah, and every business is different. I mean, it's hard to ask that question. It's like what?
Combined vendor.
Yeah, by vendor. Yeah, perfect. To go over that one, I put a little arrow and a little highlight there. You have those custom columns. If you use that, you see I have that inventory tier there. Days covered, that's another one. So we have days covered combined. So when we're on, our stuff is on the website. So this is outside of Intuiflow. We take the data and kind of do it. That's something maybe you guys could do. I don't know. So we have 2 locations. It's pretty easy, right? But maybe somebody has 185 locations and get a combined days covered. So if on the website, 2/3 of our orders are online. If we're out in one location, but 300 days and in another, we're fine. And so that combined days coverage kind of gives a macro view, and that's another thing that we kind of customized, and something I could see that Intuiflow maybe adds or maybe not. But using these customizations in the Intuiflow is why we wanted to do it, right? So and it's easy, integrated, very, very easy.
I really like your use of, we intentionally try to leverage saved searches as much as possible. And the way you are basically extending them.
Yeah.
Because once you get to know NetSuite, you know saved searches.
Right.
And you can take the ones we've made and bring more data, bring extra pieces of your own kind of flavor to it.
Yeah.
You feel like are, relevant to you.
Yeah, tailor it, get that suit nice, tailor it exactly how you want it.
That's the first thing I thought of. I didn't bring classification in there, so we can
Yeah.
check that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. You just take their search, create a.
NetSuite, which only gives you A, B, and C.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
let me add a D.
Yeah.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here for. Trading ideas, hopefully that help make us better.
Which is new to me, because I thought our ability to broaden was limited to what Intuiflow gave us in the can. So I didn't know that you could leverage anything on the NetSuite side.
Yeah, not only is it integrated, you can, customize it, tailor it. That's
Anything that say search code, you can add.
Yeah.
We asked for a couple fields of like say search code in the form itself.
Yeah,
And we'll add it too, so.
Yeah, we have an IT team that can customize those fields. I'm definitely not. I know enough to be dangerous. I might be able to say a few things right, but you'll catch a few things wrong that I'm saying. But we had the team to create those custom fields. Sometimes they're very easy, but sometimes there's formulas, and but you definitely can. You gotta. It's not just the 12 color, the Crayola box with 12. You can get the 256 one if you really want it. You can get the mauve and the whatever color.
So,
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, so all of the fields that are associated with the outflow table structures are accessible through save searches?
Yeah, so like your Intuiflow records, you can run a saved search, all your Intuiflow records. In fact, like the planner's workbench is actually just a search of your Intuiflow records.
What about part activity? One of the things
Part activity.
that we want to do is look at part activity holistically. You know, instead of having to look at it, you know, item by item. Is there a way, to get that information?
So the part activity, when you're looking at a given part, is just pulling the data from all of the transactions related to that part. So you can do transaction searches, but specifically that, I mean, those are actually not records down there. All that thing is doing is, if you're loading up that part, you're looking at part activity, it's saying, go find all of the demand and supply and grab the inventory line for this and smashing it into a little table for you.
Right, so my point is what you have there is excellent. That, because part of what I'm doing now is data cleanup. You know, so there are sales orders, work orders that are back from 2019, 2021 that need to be cleaned up. And, you know, unless I query NetSuite directly, you know, when I'm looking at these items, I see it there.
Right.
So that part activity, if I could get that part activity, they will out the tool flow for all items. That would be a huge time saver for me.
We don't have
I
that.
think I would just try to sit the native NetSuite safe search. And find get the data you want out in order.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to pull work orders, I'm gonna have to pull sales orders, I'm gonna have to pull transfer orders, you know, all that information that Outflow is already doing. I mean, you guys are already pulling that information for me, at the item level.
At the item level.
Yeah. Now, I know you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
be stopped here.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Time-
this is part of my
yeah.
wish list.
Yeah, research, right? Delve in, dive in, right? Okay, let's see here. On a longer term basis, monthly, quarterly, annually, these are some things that we do. Reports, parts maintenance and settings, the smart buffer profiler. You know, that is important to just keep things, reviewing them. One thing I would say, potentially improvement is if you decided not to accept it, if it would like refresh it, that would be an interesting thing. So let's say it says B54 in our case, and it says change it to B53. And then I say, no, I don't want to do that. Or I do want to do it, but I'm going to do it as a B53, you know, C, 120. Maybe there's a way to say that I've accepted it and then it just reshuffles the deck for a certain amount of time. I don't know. But it's absolutely helpful to see how things are going. It's checking it, it's auditing it for us. So that's what's awesome about the smart buffer profiler. Lead time analyzer review. I don't know. This is something that we kind of do. This is more, we take some of the data and see, this has been one of our big problems that you'll see here in a second, the last couple of years, is just the lead time variability and then contraction. It's like, that's great. Okay, we doubled our lead time. But when you went back down here in a second, that hurt. That hurt a little bit. So we have different searches that we do to get that data to make sure that we update and properly have the correct lead time in there, because that really affects the buffers, and you know, it affects a lot. And so that that's something that we do. We just have item receipts from item order, and we know how many days we've ordered it and how long it takes to get here. So we can do a historical back look at that. And then we're also asking them, this is the forecast with your vendor. I sent an order in last week and they're telling me it's 90 days. All right. And then, but the last 6 months has been 107.
PO to IR.
Yeah. 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 So you can.
You know, say search for about what's that, and then you can see what. Do you use NetSuite's average lead time where it calculates out 40 hours for you?
Not so much. No, we
You have
kind
to
of,
be careful with that one.
Yeah.
because It only calculates so often, and if you mess up like one order, like, and, you know, receive it early or receive it really late or something, like, it adds into your calculation. I've just seen those things go,
Based on
Yeah.
the last three.
yeah, it's like based on like your last 3 receipts or
Oh,
4
okay,
receipts.
yeah.
Something really small that like, it's really easy for that number to go awry.
we definitely, we do that, but we'll just export it and then
Kind of check.
check it. Okay, yeah, so we use it, but not not checking that box for NetSuite to do it for us. Yeah. So let's see here, Intuiflow file updates and backup. We want to take our data and save it as well. I know you guys are saving it too, but having that historical data and the Intuiflow settings analysis. Just you got to you don't have constantly in a longer time frame. Annually, 6 months, quarterly, review what you're doing. Again, we don't have the S&OP at this point, so maybe some of that historical stuff would, or back testing some of it would be helpful as well to see if there's any adjustments we need to make. And then the reports, some of the reports, I put the service level. You'll see the last year it went up considerably with our service level. And so we have had considerable success with Intuiflow. Last part here, are we good on time? I don't even know what.
Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. So the last section here, we're going to go into our setbacks, our solutions, hopefully the success we've had, but I'll go over some Clearbags numbers of importance to kind of let you know what we do. Meaning, almost everything's inventory items. We have these kits, which would be just components of several items, and then we do some backing, cut that cardboard. We still are in that business for art, and those would be assembly items where you get a standard sheet and you're cutting it into all kinds of different ones. We have 50 vendors. The vendors you see in red, maroon, whatever, are overseas international vendors. The ones in blue, kind of a little snapshot of where we where our vendors are. We have some hopefully coming in Mexico and Honduras, and looking at that as well here this year. We import on average about 200 containers per year, mostly full container loads, a little bit less this year. We have about 5,500 items, 17,000 Intuiflow records, only 10,000 active because we changed warehouses. Our West Coast warehouse used to be California, it's now Nevada. That was a fun and successful transition with Intuiflow, creating that, having all that flow from our California go into the Nevada stuff, and that's been a year and a half now. So all that is transitioned over.
So how did you transfer the
There's some advanced settings where you can add it to the new. We had 3 records, so we had a California, a Tennessee, and then a Nevada record. And then we took all the California usage and data and linked it to the Nevada one.
Nice.
And then over 6 months time frame, or however you can eventually sort it out, because everything was getting ordered now to Nevada, and you just have Nevada plus California for that duration. So that was seamless, but smooth. Pain in the butt, but it worked. It worked. It was work. It wasn't fun. 600 million pieces sold in 2022, 540 million ordered. The reason is 2021 was a little different with that lead time expansion, the buffers, the red zone, yellow zone goes up, and the lead time compression this year, in late 2022 started to compress back down a lot. And then the 2 distribution locations, one in Nevada and Tennessee, which we already discussed. All right, so part 5, we're almost done here. The journey to Goldilocks, or just right demand planning, or demand driven MRP planning with Intuiflow. So again, we had some setbacks and just business growth. It's not really setbacks when it's just growth. Internal and external are going to go over some solutions that we came up with, internal and external, and that's the success we've had. And the reason why, I don't know, you never get there, right? Business changes, everything's going to keep changing. I don't know if you'll ever get there, but that was an AI Van Gogh. So just, yeah, not bad. We'll see what AI can do for Intuiflow, right?
Right. Working on that.
All right, so setbacks. So I said 2020 to a current, because when you start with anything, you're inexperienced. So we had inexperience with the Intuiflow settings. You had mentioned this before about the buffer, preset percentage and whatnot. And I want to learn more too. You're starting, I feel like I'm maybe a blue belt, orange. I think I'm past yellow. I'm pretty sure I'm an orange, maybe a blue belt here. But we still got a lot to learn. But we had some inexperience with the ADU horizon, and pandemic happened. So we start January. We had a 90-day ADU horizon, and Q2 2020 sales kind of went down a lot. And then Q3 2020 sales went up a lot. And so you're looking, it was a little bit of craziness. So we looked at over time that we felt it was better. We could maybe change it down to 120, 150, but for us it was 180 ADU horizon is where we ended up comfortable with. And I don't know, and you guys maybe can help talk to me about it, but I think it might be a function of your average lead time too. So if your ADU horizon is 30 and your lead time is 90, that's probably not a good idea. It has to, that's my assumption.
So what I've seen, we did some studies on the ADU horizon. One of the biggest takeaways that we had was the worst ADU horizon possible is if you have any type of seasonality, whatever the length of your period is, you don't want your ADU horizon to be half of that.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, that completely desyncs your buffer from the period of whatever your periodicity is.
Right.
So that was one of the big takeaways that happened. That's a very bad value. Other than that, longer horizons are better.
Yeah.
Generally, not that
To a certain extent.
to a certain extent.
Yeah,
It's actually a
I think,
limited.
I think we're topping out. I don't think we would want to go any higher. So that's
No,
okay. We could maybe go to 150 or, we might look at that again, and that's where you just continually.
The only problem,
Check.
the only area where you get into trouble with the longer horizons are when you have parts that are phasing in or out,
Yeah.
because obviously they're going to be phasing in and out too slowly.
Right.
And you're not picking up that growth or that decline fast enough. But other than that, like 120, 150, I thought looked like we've always kind of done 90 as the default. And some of the research we've done is pointing more towards 120, 150.
Cool. Suboptimal knowledge of our internal numbers. This is again, this is more not Intuiflow. This is just, there's certain things that we didn't pay attention to. I'd say like the forest versus the trees. We know the trees, but maybe the forest was, and that's why I had some of those overarching numbers. How much do we buy each year? Meaning, how much do we burn? Excuse me. How much do we burn of inventory per year? Which I call inventory burn as our cost. Didn't really know that over the last 2 or 3 years. So we needed to work on that stuff, and Intuiflow records have helped us with that too. So and like I said, I'm mentioning the sorted, the tiering and whatnot. Unprecedented lead time expansion and contraction, and the production constraints that they were mentioning earlier today. The logistic chaos, that was just more kind of dovetails into our overall lead time. And of course, the West Coast Distribution Center, which was an extra added excitement over the last few years. And then the bullwhip effect, which is, I'm looking for solutions for that to make sure. I mean, it might not happen again for a long time, but that's what I'm looking for, solutions for that. So these were our solutions. You gain experience, back tests, use DD Tech for their expertise, and analyze the options. We've implement changes. You react. Hopefully you act and not react, but you got to make adjustments. Just don't overcorrect. So make sure you're able to test those things. And again, we put in some tracking of the lead time, past performance versus what they're telling me. What are you telling me? What are you offering me? And then basically I call it like lead time forecasting. What are they gonna do in the future? Because I don't wanna, they did 160 days last year, but if they're telling me 80, I don't necessarily wanna order 160. You know, so putting a forecast to the lead time there. Almost done. Logistics chaos, just the nimble planning, adjusting lead time and making sure top items were given priority. Again, that tiering helped us out. And one thing I think I could have done better was, and I think I'll mention this in the next slide, is maximum order quantity. So let's say we needed to order, lead time doubled, 90 days to 180 days, or 75 days to 150. And we might need to order 300,000 of something, but if we had a maximum order, maybe we had only done 150 twice, and then have that second order scheduled out. Because if I order 300,000 and I do that for 5,000 items, guess what the production capacity of the vendor is going to be? It's going to go up a lot. But if I ordered 150,000 and then have that scheduled out for next month or next 45 days to send out that other one, it pulls off my red zone or yellow zone or wherever for the net flow, and I've already got that preset in NetSuite to a certain date. I can search it. Oh, what are my preset orders, and do that. So that was one solution that learned a little late, but working on maximum order quantities is something that helped with the bullwhip effect and the lead time. So I'm going to finish up here with just one more slide. And these are 3 little tips or tricks that we like to use thus far. The cycle count, again, our top items. Let me see here. You know, the 80-20 rule, what's that called? The Pareto principle.
Yeah.
So 20% of our items do not quite 80, they do like 67% of our business. So if I'm going to be out of stock, I don't want to be out of stock on those. And so we add the cycle count of 120 or 90 days to make sure that we're ordering a bigger green zone. The company, you know, ask your leadership team, make sure that's all right. But it was all right. And so prioritizing and making sure that we use the cycle count for very important VIP items was something that we've used and continue to use. Single item adjustment factor, you had mentioned this, but we have stock items, and oftentimes our customers will then have a printed version of that later. So they're buying 100,000 of these every 3 months, and then they're the biggest buyer. You know, you look at, you know, we sold 800,000, but they're buying 400,000 of it. They decide to go and buy a custom version of that. What do we do with, you know, so we can use these adjustment factors down and up to make these adjustments. And so that's been helpful as well. And then the max order quantity, I kind of mentioned that the minimum order quantity is kind of standard. You know, usually it's something that you're trying to get up to because the vendor doesn't want you to order less, but the max order quantity, still working on it, still kind of tweaking it, but that's something that can make sure that we have proper pacing of our ordering. So that is it. I appreciate you guys sitting through this. We're almost there, almost to the finish line. We're going to stumble into the finish line, but yeah, thank you very much.